You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by the founder of Better Beings, Michelle Zellner. Michelle's experiences have equipped her with knowledge and perspective, and for nearly 3 decades, she has been informing, influencing, and inspiring thousands on their journeys. This show spotlights guests of diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise, but they all align with Michelle's purpose and passion to help you be a better human being. There is something for everyone on their way to a healthier, happier life. Enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Better Being podcast. This is episode 142, released on August 18th. And as we continue to celebrate National Wellness Month, I am super excited for my next guest. Gina Fontaine is a wellness guide, author, and mother of 3 who has spent nearly 3 decades helping clients connect mindfully with their bodies to discover inner wisdom through movement. Her own healing journey led her through countless wellness modalities before discovering brain-based healing with Cereset, a turning point that redefined everything for her. Now, as a client center manager of Cereset here in Denver, Gina helps others reset from stress, rediscover their natural balance, not through effort, but through rest. And I experienced this myself and can't wait to share what that was like. And Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's funny because we just connected a little over a year ago, and through conversation, turns out we have a mutual friend who is very dear to both of us, Taverly.
Yep.
And listeners, if you are listening chronologically, you heard her on an April episode. So yeah, come to find out, Taverly wrote the foreword to your book, which is
she's amazing. Yes, isn't it amazing how paths intersect?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you and I have a lot of similarities in our own journeys as well. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and give the listeners a little bit of background on you, where you came from, what you do, what you started with. Tell us about the book and all the things. And then we'll get to Cereset here as we continue the conversation.
Okay. Well, I uniquely am the youngest of 10 children, and I grew up in the Midwest in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I had to be a strong little gal because I had 6 brothers. And so physical activity it was a basic survival skill, really. And so I can't really remember a time when I wasn't shooting baskets, hitting baseballs, or playing kickball in the middle of the street. So I naturally gravitated to sports, and then that led to a career in fitness. So like you, Michelle, I became the certified personal trainer right out of college. And I packed up my little Honda Civic and headed from Indianapolis to Denver, Colorado, where I started my career, which I've now since 1996. So I'm coming up on 30 years as I'm still a certified personal trainer. And that's taken me to many different settings, from elite athletic clubs to public recreation centers. And my true passion, having 3 children, I discovered that when I was a pregnant fitness professional, there really wasn't information out there about how to safely exercise, because I, being the fitness professional, I was like, yeah, I'm so good, I can do it all. And in my doing it all attitude, I really hurt myself, like my back, my pelvic floor. And so with my 3rd pregnancy, I endeavored to create an exercise program that was safe for women, and that became known as Power of Pregnancy. And then it became known as Mama Core Restore once women had babies. And I worked on that project for about 6 years, and I miss it, but I do love the brain wellness work that I'm doing now and have been for the last 2.5 years here at Cereset.
So we are a very exclusive group of OGs when it comes to female fitness trainers in the industry. I started in 97, so you got 1 year on me, but it's a unique club. There's not a lot that were doing it back then and are still very connected to it, right? I know you don't do personal training anymore, but clearly fitness is a very critical part of your life still. And we know how important the physical outlet is for all aspects of our well-being. So tell me about the book that you wrote, because because that is different from the fitness stuff that you did. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so along with my passion for helping mothers, my book is called You Are a Super Mom, 5 Ways to Reclaim Your Superpower and Thrive as a Mom. And I wrote that book. It was a pandemic project. I started writing it in May of 2020, published in September of 2021. And I really wrote it when I was at the end of my rope in a very difficult situation with a teenage son who was at times violent with me, and he had an abusive background with his father, and not he abusing his father, but the other way around. And we were navigating some difficult times, as everyone in the world was, but that we were in a situation of conflict and we couldn't go anywhere. And I started writing as an outlet for mental health and healing, and then I shared it with a friend one day, and she said, this is something that could help every mom out there. So I went about to just continue writing. I hired an editor and a publisher. And then within another year, I had a book on the shelf. And I also created a community that I called the Supermom Club. And that got me out of bed every morning at 6:30 a.m. I would turn on my camera, no matter what I looked like each day, and I did a live video segment where we exercised together for 10 minutes, and I would have people get on live. But I also kept a database of all these videos. So I think in total I have 250 10-minute videos. And what a perfect amount of time for a mom, because I would tell these women, if nothing else happens today and you can't fit exercise in, at least you got these 10 minutes. And then once I archived them and put them on an app, it's, the idea was that you could string 3 of them together and have a nice 30-minute routine to do at home. So I closed that project down when I started Cereset, just because I really wanted to be able to focus on just one project.
Well, yes, obviously you are a super mom doing all these different things and raising 3 kids.
And I'm writing the next book presently. So I have 14 chapters written of it. It's called Beyond Super Mom, The Rise of the Sovereign Mother. So it's an evolution of mom.
I love it. Well, let's bring us to present day and let's talk about Cereset. First of all, what is it? Because I'm sure people are like, what does this even mean? And then we'll get into, all the things that it does and how you can benefit by utilizing this new tool.
Yeah. So Cereset comes from 2 words, the words cerebrum, so your brain, and reset put together. So it is a brain technology that helps to reset the brain so that individuals can experience deeper sleep, calmer mood, better energy management, stress regulation, and clearer thinking. And it happens in a way that's non-invasive. So there's no pills, there's really no practices involved. We're just recording a client's sound waves, their brain waves, and then the technology is translating those into sound tones that they listen to, and then their brain recognizes through the sound that it's itself, and it then helps to balance the brain on its own. The brain is actually doing the work, which is really unique because a lot of brain technologies, even supplements, is operating on an outside-in approach where something from the outside is kind of telling the brain what to do. And this is just simply, Cereset is a mirror showing the brain where it might be experiencing imbalance so that the brain then can make the decision how it's going to adjust and adapt.
It's really fascinating, and it's really hard to grasp, a concept to grasp for most of us. I know, I went through it, and it's still hard for me to contemplate and visualize what is actually happening. But can you go into a little bit of the actual technology and how it was created, who created it, where, and how long has this been around? And
sure.
Let's get a little of those details.
Yeah, Cereset has a history of about 25 years. So 25 years ago, Lee Gertis is the founder. He sustained a traumatic brain injury when he was just simply taking the trash out to the alley one day. 3 kids attacked him with a baseball bat over the head. And for 10 years, he pursued treatment he had erratic temper, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't think clearly, and he was a computer programmer. So he just was completely paralyzed. And after 10 years of coming up short of a solution to get his brain back in gear, he got the download in prayer one day that, hey, you can actually create a program to mirror the brain back to itself. And so he went about to create this computer program that we now know as Cereset. And the brain echo technology is his invention. And it has been researched in university environment at Wake Forest University. There was a pilot study done with the U.S. military, and we're getting great results I know a lot of people probably listening struggle with sleep. That's a very common problem that a lot of people come to us with. Brain fog is another. And 90% of our clients say they have some type of improvement, and that's a really incredible success rate.
So let's walk the listener through like exactly how this goes. So I show up, I'm here to have a Cereset appointment. What does that look like?
Yeah, so our very first day is the orientation appointment. And so there's a large element of getting to know our client and what their biggest pain point is, whether that's sleep or mood or lack of energy or managing their stress or thinking and cognitive ability. And we help them really zoom in on at least one or two areas that we're going to focus on as far as achieving a goal of improvement. And then after we've done the consultation for about 30 minutes, and we move into this really lovely leather reclining chair, and we apply the sensors right onto the head. And those EEG sensors will be then recording. So there's no electric shocks or stimulations or anything going on. It's just simple recording brainwaves. And then the client is in a darkened room, if that's what they prefer, and they're listening to sound tones. And oftentimes people go into a really restful napping state. And even I come into the room with snoring people all the time. And they come in over a series of 5 sessions. So there are about 4 sessions that are done over a period of 1 to 2 weeks. We take a little break that we call the integration period. And basically over a month period of time, people have revamped brain that is starting to create new neural networks. So neuroplasticity is a very popular word these days, and creating new neural networks. And there's a lot of different pathways and modalities out there to do that. Again, Cereset is a non-invasive way to help the brain. So our tagline is, we help your brain help you. So we help the brain help itself to create or reorganize neural pathways that are conducive to better sleep, better mood, better thinking ability.
And so obviously it's not like, oh, I go in for the first treatment, now magically I'm sleeping better, or wow, I'm like the sharpest thinker in the room.
Yeah.
So how does the brain take the waves that are happening, translate it to sound, reflects it as a mirror, and now the waves are different, right? I mean, that's basically like in a very, kind of archaic way of describing it, right?
Yeah. I think of Cereset as like meditation on steroids. So in meditation, we are observing the mind, and then through that observation, the mind is able to calm down, hopefully. And in Cereset, a similar thing is happening. So there's a concept in quantum physics that an observed system will change. And so by observing a system, observing in this case the brain will make adjustments and adaptations. Now, does that happen overnight? Does it happen in one session? No, absolutely not. Many times our clients have deeply embedded patterns that take time. And oftentimes it takes more than 5 sessions before people really feel like they have significant change. But sometimes in 5 sessions, people feel like, okay, I got what I needed. We do recommend tune-up sessions on an ongoing basis to help with maintenance, because as I tell people, you're going to go out and you're going to be in that crazy world, and there's going to be all kinds of outside elements to throw the balance off. And the beautiful thing is, like I told you before we got on camera, Michelle, we have a stress scale called a personal brain index, 0 to 100. 100 is my brain is fully balanced. And I got a session this morning and I was at 43 on the stress. And by the end, I'm a 96. And I feel amazing. Like my head feels so much clearer. And that happened in 30 minutes. And it's incredible, but I've done it a lot. So now my brain kind of knows. I get in the chair and the brain is like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Sort of like the well-trained dog who you shake the dog bone box. And you know, and it's not like there's a dependency, because what's happened for me personally is that now I can extend and go longer and longer periods of time without needing a tune-up. Or if stressful things happen in my life, I know that I can lean into Cereset as a tool to help get things back on track quicker than I used to.
Well, it's like a muscle memory, right? The stronger your muscle is, then maybe you can go a little longer without using that muscle again, and yet you go back to using it and it bounces back pretty quickly. So that makes total sense with that analogy. Yeah. Tell us some of like the really incredible success stories that you've seen.
Well, I'm one of them. I'll say, I'll tell you mine first, because I think it's important for people to know my background in it. Was when I was going through a very stressful time in my life with my teenage son, who was in and out of juvenile detention and dropped out of school. I had just gotten divorced. I went through a period of time where I wouldn't sleep for days. I mean, and fitness instructor, I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning, go teach that class. And I was literally an adrenaline junkie, just functioning on adrenaline day by day. And I would brag to people, oh yeah, I don't need sleep. Like I can just, it's amazing. But then what would happen is I would snap and I would yell at my kids and I'd scream on the tennis court when I would miss a ball. And it was just a really uncomfortable place to be for a long, like this was years, 3 to 5 years. And then Cereset came along. Well, I was hired to manage and open the new center in Denver. Well, my first step was actually, okay, now I need to do this and make sure I'm a believer in it. And I went down to our center down in Colorado Springs, and I went from being a 2-hour a night sleeper. With my third session, I got an 8-hour night of sleep, and I really didn't know what happened to me when I woke up and I saw light coming through the window, because usually I would wake up and it would be dark, and I'd just lay there. So did it continue? No, but 2 nights turned into 3 nights, and the stretches of sleep got longer and longer as my brain's capacity built up. So, and then there's another client that we have who is actually a sleep coach and coaches people on sleep hygiene, and tells us has spent over $100,000 on sleep solutions, and had been trying a number of different things prior to coming to Cereset. And I mean, everything from ketamine to CBD, I mean, you name the supplement, this individual had tried it. And it took some time to convince the individual, because we tell people you're going to get better results if you just wean off of your supplements. I mean, this individual now is now sleeping better than what they say they've ever slept before. So we have a gentleman who had a traumatic brain injury and works on a ranch, and a bull met him head on and suffered. I mean, for many, I think 2 or 3 years of just not being able, socially isolating, not being able to go out into the community where he and his wife were very involved. And this was a 5-session success story. After 5 sessions, able to engage with the community, out there with his backhoe, building a pond in their yard and feeling life again. And they do come for tune-ups every few months. And for the wife, the feeling of, I got my husband back. I mean, that's invaluable when you feel like you've lost a partner to something traumatic, like a traumatic brain injury, and then to have them restored back to themselves is really remarkable.
What about other kinds of trauma? Like, do you work with people who have like significant traumatic events, life events, PTSD, things like that?
Yes, one area that this year particularly we've really started to step into is working with first responders and military veterans. We have a special fund allocated for scholarship money. And so PTSD, I mean, a 911 operator, that person on the other line who's holding space for all those emergencies in a day, the firefighter who has seen things that you and I, Michelle, probably can't even fathom. And we've had the opportunity to work with a few of them, and the success rate, I mean, it's been remarkable to see just that kind of like the wall shed that, you kind of have to, I think, necessarily for survival, put up a wall against all that you might see, and to restore feeling, emotional, to get rid of that numb feeling and to restore feeling in a positive way, not in a traumatic, I don't want to feel that sort of way. And I've also heard one of them said it's like the black cloud that was following me around is gone. So more positive outlook, not always waiting for the next bad thing to happen, which I would imagine if you're always responding to emergencies, you start to develop a filter that you expect something bad to happen. So that's been very, very rewarding.
So let's talk a little bit about my experience. So I like to be a guinea pig, I like to try all the things that are out there. And when I learned about what you do, I thought, oh, that's fascinating. And I have a history of concussions from sports, gymnastics, also car accident, a snowboarding accident, passing out in the middle of the night for no reason and hitting my head on the countertop. So, I'm a little worried about my brain in the future. And it's something I think about all the time. And I think if there's anything I can do to just, buffer it, protect it, get it to a better place, give it whatever it can, why not try it? So I decided, let me do these 5 sessions. And, a lot of the questions that you ask, I mean, I live a pretty healthy lifestyle, right? I think most people would acknowledge that. It's something I've worked hard at for a long time. And I think I handle stress pretty well. I'm not someone who worries a lot. I have a pretty good handle on emotional intelligence and expressing my emotions and talking about them and understanding, like, are they useful? Are they not? If they're not, let's have it and then move on from it. Like, I've done a lot of that work. So I feel like I'm a pretty balanced person, but sleep has always and still is a challenge for me. I do all the right things, maybe not all. I do most of the right things, but it still isn't awesome. It's not awful. It's not awesome. So when you ask, what is your pain point? I said, well, sleep is probably the thing. If I had to pick one, that would be it. And so it was interesting just doing that first session. And you just lay there and you hear these very pleasant tones. My brain started to get really curious, like, oh. So then I tried to start to see patterns, like, oh, that tone. Oh, I hear that tone again. Oh, my brain must be doing the same thing to create the same tone. And, oh, that got like a super high tone. Now there was a low tone. Like, what does that mean? So I mean, I don't know if everybody does that, but I know at least in the first session I was doing that. It's probably kind of normal, right? When it's like the first time doing anything, to be really curious and a little confused with what's going on. Yeah. So can we talk about like what you saw when I'm laying there and the electrodes are hooked up?
I mean, we can see the brain waves information coming in real time, and then we can go back and look at data reports. And I remember there was a distinct pattern with you, if it's okay to share that. I think it was the back of your brain. There was particular areas that were just in a consistent pattern, imbalanced, and which is often common with when there's a head injury. I'll ask people, well, what side of your head were you hit, or can you remember? And that imbalance will show up, and we hope that the brain will start to resolve some of those issues. We do prioritize the stress regulation part of the brain is called the temporal lobes. Those are on the sides of the head by the ears. And because what we found is that if that part of the brain is out of regulation, then it's hard to get the rest of the brain in balance.
And I think when we looked at mine, you had said that mine is fairly balanced, right? There's not these gigantic swings, which I think tracks, right, with sort of my self-report. And as we went through the sessions, we saw it condensing and getting a little more balanced in certain places. I did not feel any significant difference. I didn't see a significant difference in my sleep or in any mood stuff. And I don't know if that's just because I already do like a lot of healthy lifestyle things, like the sprinter who's trying to shave that, 0.2 off is going to take a lot harder to get there versus somebody who's never exercised. You're going to see much bigger gains much quicker.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit and kind of what would be the next steps for someone like me who's done that, and we see some improvement, but I don't necessarily feel the difference in my life.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point you make of having a lot of practices of mental resiliency in place already versus somebody who came in and had absolutely zero mental resilience. That person's going to obviously notice a lot more difference doing Cereset. And it's an over time kind of thing. So I think over time, this is my inclination, is that with tune-ups, the difference might be more noticeable. I know I had a client in just yesterday who's been coming for regular tune-ups for a year now, and she said it's like the capacity of my brain has expanded, and this person has some trauma in her childhood, and the capacity to open up and dive into some of those wounds in therapy has expanded, and there's a willingness to be with it, and there's the capacity to hold space for that healing where it didn't exist before. So that individual is just experiencing a lot of significant healing at this time.
Well, I think also what we saw at the end was that part of my brain that was really amplified where, we decided my head injuries, it wasn't the same spot on my head. I probably have 6 or 7 or 8 concussions in my life.
Yeah.
But we did see it calm down, right? It changed. Like it was, and I saw the readout, so it was fascinating. So maybe you can articulate that a little better for the listeners, what you saw, that change in that part of my brain.
Yeah, honestly, I'd have to bring the reports right back up in front of me because I've looked at 20 or 30 reports since then. But what we find, if you were to come back for a tune-up, it's not like we're starting from square one again. The brain would have some memory of where we left off. If it's more than 6 months, it is kind of like starting with a new brain again. Also, if people experience some major trauma, like a loss of a loved one or a car accident, we say it's kind of like starting over again with a new brain in terms of doing sessions. And the other thing that is surprising, and I've learned a lot about supplements, there are a lot of brain people think they're taking supplements and they're helping their brain, but examples might be CBD, lion's mane, the adaptogens are very, very popular, melatonin for sleep. And the question you want to ask yourself is, do I want to be on supplements the rest of my life to sustain this? And with the understanding that my brain might develop a tolerance and I need to continually increase more and more and more to get the same effect? Or would I rather put the supplements aside and let my brain help itself? Because that can happen with clients. They'll leave the center and then they don't come back for tune-ups, and then things fall apart and they're like, oh, well, that didn't work. And then they start taking supplements, or they go to the doctor and they get a prescription. And what I believe really happened is they didn't follow through and take the steps to do the tune-ups, to really trust the process, because there's a small percentage, there's 10% of people, so one person out of every 10 is going to come and say, yeah, that didn't do anything for me. And it tracks with our experience, but still, we feel like that's really significant to get great results with most people.
And what about addiction? Is this something that someone who struggles with addiction could see some impact with?
If that individual has gotten treatment and they're on the sobriety side, Cereset is not something that, a good example is alcoholism. We've had people we recommend that stop drinking during the period of time you're doing Cereset, and they'll drink right up to the day before sessions and then stop. And then they have that little integration period, and then they don't come back for session 5. And I'm kind of privy to, they probably started drinking again. And so we would be great partners with a rehab center where somebody has gone through the program, they're on the other side, and now they're needing to reintegrate with the world and having tools, building up mental resiliency after the treatment program would be a great connection.
Yeah, it makes sense that your brain is not going to balance if you are continuing to take mind-altering substances, right? Like, just is not going to work. So,
being on a roller coaster ride and expecting your belly to feel really settled and calm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. And I just love knowing that there are so many tools out there that anybody can explore. Obviously, not everybody lives in Denver, but please come visit and see Gina in Denver.
I do want to point out we have 60 plus locations throughout the country. So on our website, our home website, Cereset, Cereset.com, we have a location tab, and you just type in your zip code and you can see if there's a Cereset near you.
Exactly. Love it. Anything else that would be helpful for the listeners to know before we officially wrap up?
In terms of fitness, because I'm getting ready to present at an international fitness conference, and I'm tying together the idea that what I say is mind over muscle, that you can train your muscles and aspire to have the perfect body, but if your mind isn't balanced, then all you've got is a sleek physique. And furthermore, as a personal trainer who's worked 30 years, I've seen so many people struggle to get results. And what I understand now, and my theory is that stress is something that stops people from getting results in their personal fitness path. Because if your brain is stuck in fight or flight or freeze, it's going to be really hard to have good metabolism and lose weight. If your brain is stuck in fight or flight or freeze, it's going to be hard to build muscle. It's going to be difficult to just experience the calm that you need to have as a basis for a good, healthy life overall.
Yeah, no, that's all very well established in science, that chronic stress impedes everything and definitely impedes any kind of results when it comes to modifying your body composition. So if you're out there doing
like how we respond to stress, because we need stress, but it's how we respond rather than react to it.
Yep. Excellent. Well, Gina, this is fascinating. We'll put all of the information in the show notes so people can reach out, connect, find a Cereset near them, give it a try. That's what I tell people, does it work? You're the only one that can tell if it works, right? Like, just try it. If you're willing and able to invest in going on the journey, but if you're going to do it, go with an open mind, don't go thinking, well, I don't think this is going to work, but I'll try it anyway. Because again, mind over matter, when your brain is telling you it's not going to work, well, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And we do have an intro session that's just kind of dipping your toes in. We do a scan record your brain waves and then provide a report so you can actually see, okay, what does the balance of my brain look like? How well is my brain tolerating stress?
Yep. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this information. I think it's fascinating. I think we're just in this incredible time in the wellness world for anybody who cares about optimizing their well-being. There is no shortage of opportunity to do that. So Thank you for sharing. Everybody, you listening, you know that now it is your turn to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. We hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.